And for more on the Ukraine crisis, we are joined now by Anton Fedyashin. He's the executive director at the Initiative for Russian Culture at American University in Washington, D.C. And Anton, welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So this ceasefire was enacted September the 5th.
Yes.
Why has it failed?
I think that both sides are still interested in having the conflict continue. And unfortunately, according to the rebels, it's the Kiev side. According to Kiev, it's the rebel side. We still are dealing with two narratives. Okay.
Ukraine's defense minister, you heard, came out and said that NATO countries are delivering arms to Ukraine. At least 5 NATO members are denying this. Who's telling the truth?
Well, it's unclear who to believe, but it's strange that the Ukrainians are saying things that NATO countries are now denying. They've been accusing Russians of continuous invasions for which they've provided absolutely no credible evidence. So now it seems that the West is beginning to doubt what's coming out of Kiev. So we'll see what happens in the next few days.
So there have been a new round of sanctions against the Russian banks, the defense and envoy companies. Why aren't these working?
Well, because ultimately this is not a question of sanctions and economic pain, which they inevitably will inflict on Russia. This is a question of political will and of national will. And so far, and this may change in the future, the sanctions have had the exact opposite effect of what was intended. The Russians are actually rallying around Vladimir Putin. And if Russia can manage to weather the slowdown in their economy, which is inevitable in the next few months, and they do have the national reserves and alternative sources of finance in Asia specifically, then Putin will have proved that he is indeed the strongman that he has always positioned himself as being.
What is he pushing for right now, Anton?
He's pushing for the maximum rights, local rights, within a unified Ukraine for the Luhansk and the Donetsk regions, what are called the Donbas. So far, the Russians have given no indication that they want to break these regions off. If they had wanted to, they would have invaded a long time ago. And when I say invaded, it would have been the kind of invasion that no one would be doubting and discussing whether they believe it or not. But they haven't done that. And they have not supported a full independence, even after the referendums happened in those areas in the spring. So the Russians are now playing a game of balance and realpolitik, and they seem to be meeting Western threats with a straight back so far. We'll see how long this lasts.
Mm-hmm. Is this more about, underneath the surface politically, Ukraine not joining NATO?
In large part, yes. And I think that was the main reason for the Russians annexing annexing the Crimea, because they know that countries with territorial disputes will not be brought into the Union. They tried this with Georgia in 2008 and succeeded, and they've tried it with Ukraine again. That seems to be off the table for now, as we know from the Wales summit. But now the question is economics. And it is encouraging that the Ukrainians, the Europeans, and the Russians just met a few days ago, and the EU-Ukraine agreement has been postponed in how it comes into power. We'll see how far the negotiations can go.
Okay, well, let's look at Russian President Vladimir Putin's position. He says, I support the rebels, I'm not arming the rebels. These are sophisticated weapons and armory that the rebels have. Where do you propose they would be getting them?
Well, how sophisticated they are is a question. Everything that they have used so far is what the Ukrainian army is using. And their official position, and this has been verified by news reports and camera shots, is that they are seizing their weapons from the Ukrainian army itself. And there have been massive defections within Ukrainian units and abandonments of positions. That's their story. Now, whether this is true or not, we simply don't know. But the weapons that the Ukrainian rebels are using are not much more powerful or modern than what the Ukrainian army is using. So again, there are there's no proof leading directly to Russia, nothing that can be verified.
Alrighty, Anton Fedyashin, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and insight as always.